You ruin everything. Every time. The words hit harder than a slap, not because of what he said, but because of who said it. Her son, her only child, the boy she raised with scraped knees and late-night math homework, now standing 2 meters away like she was a stranger. Nora didn't move. She couldn't. She just stood in the doorway, still holding the casserole dish she'd made that morning. Slow-cooked beef with rosemary, his favorite since he was 10. She had spent 4 hours on it. He hadn't even looked at it. She had barely stepped inside the house when Lena began clearing her throat loudly from the dining room, as if Nora's very presence disrupted the furniture. She said I overcooked the chicken, Lena whined, wineglass in hand. In front of your friends. It was humiliating. Nora blinked. I said it was a little dry, she replied gently, and I whispered it. To you, not to anyone else. But Lena wasn't looking at her anymore. She had turned toward David, Nora's son, tilting her head just enough, the corner of her mouth curled in a carefully practiced pout. She undermines me, David, all the time. I just want to feel like I'm respected. David didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look angry. That's what made it worse. He looked ashamed of her. Maybe it's best if we have some space, he said flatly. 3 words. We need space. But they felt like a door slowly closing in her face. It wasn't always like this. Just last year, Lena had laughed over apple pie at Thanksgiving, helped set the table, called her Mama Nora. She'd held Nora's hand when they went shopping. They used to share recipes. But now, Lena wouldn't meet her eyes, only stared past her, as if looking at clutter on the shelf. You always need to make things about you, Lena had said earlier that evening, when Nora simply asked if they'd join her for Sunday lunch. It's suffocating, Nora. Nora had tried to laugh it off, but her son didn't laugh with her. He didn't say a word, and that silence, it screamed. Now, standing alone in the hallway she had painted herself years ago when David first bought the house, Nora felt something crack deep inside. Not loudly, but finally. She turned around. No one followed her. Not even a half-hearted, "Wait, Mum." She drove home in silence, the casserole untouched beside her, the silence louder than the engine. At home she placed the dish on the counter, still hot, still waiting. But the appetite was gone. The air was too still. Even the clock on the wall ticked too loudly. She didn't cry that night. Instead, she made tea. She sat in her chair, wrapped in a wool blanket, staring at the wall. Her phone never buzzed. No missed calls. No, sorry, Mum. And that was when she knew. It wasn't a bad night. It was the beginning of something worse. A slow pulling away. Not sudden. Not sharp. But real. She didn't know it yet. But Lena had planted the first seed. And it was already growing. And Nora was starting to feel the roots break through. Nora couldn't stop thinking about that night. The casserole. The silence. The moment her son looked at her like she no longer belonged. But the days that followed were oddly normal. Or at least, they pretended to be. 3 days later, she got a text from David. Lena wants to make it up to you. Dinner Friday? No, I'm sorry. No mention of what happened. Just Lena, once again, taking the lead. Nora said yes. Of course she did. Because mothers don't walk away that easily, even when their hearts are bruised and unsure. Friday came, and when she rang the doorbell, it wasn't David who answered. It was Lena, barefoot, smiling, apron tied loosely around her waist, hair curled just enough to look effortless. Hi, Nora, she beamed. You look lovely. It was the kind of compliment that sounded too smooth, too automatic, like a rehearsed line in a play she had memorized too well. The table was beautifully set. Candles, wine, handmade place cards. Lena handed her a plate like she was the perfect hostess. I made lemon chicken. I know it's David's favorite. She said it with a quick smile. You've probably made it for him like 1,000 times. Nora laughed softly, but something inside her tightened. Not at what Lena said, but how she said it, like her role as David's mother had expired, and she was now just the previous generation of care. The evening went on. Polite conversation, surface-level smiles. Lena asked her questions, but never waited for the full answer. She'd cut in halfway through, change the subject, or look down at her phone while nodding. And David. He was smiling the whole time, relaxed, content, like he finally had a life that worked, that fit. And Nora, she felt like a puzzle piece from a box that had already been thrown away. Then it happened. By the way, Lena said, pouring more wine, we're thinking of skipping Sunday lunch this week, just to have a weekend for ourselves. You understand, right? She asked it sweetly, but she didn't wait for the answer. Nora smiled, nodded, but something in her stomach turned, not because they were skipping lunch, but because this time it wasn't David saying it. Lena had taken that voice, and he let her. That night, Nora walked home slower than usual. Her feet felt heavier, her thoughts foggy. It wasn't a dramatic betrayal. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't cruel. That was the genius of it. Lena didn't fight to remove her. She smiled her out of the picture, bit by bit, step by step. Kindness turned weapon, and Nora was starting to feel it. The most dangerous kind of manipulation wears a smile and makes you question your own mind. I think you misunderstood her. Nora stared at her son across the cafe table. Rain tapped softly against the window beside them. The same cafe they'd visited for years, where they used to laugh until their coffee got cold. But today, the air felt different, stiff, measured. She didn't mean it that way, David added, stirring his espresso without looking up. Nora had finally said something. After 3 skipped lunches, 2 ignored texts, and 1 strange call that ended mid-sentence. She asked him gently if Lena was all right, if he was all right, if something had changed. She thought he'd appreciate the concern, but instead, he pulled back, emotionally and literally. Lena's just sensitive, he said. You know that. You've always been a bit blunt. That last word stung. Blunt. He used to call it honesty. He used to say he admired that in her. Now it was a flaw, an offense. Nora tried to explain, tried to tell him about the silence, the way Lena glanced at her like she was intruding, how the friendly dinners always left her feeling smaller. But David waved it away. You two just need time to adjust. Lena's been through a lot. She just needs to feel secure. Secure. Was she a threat now? Nora sipped her tea. It was cold. She hadn't noticed. David kept talking, telling her how Lena struggled with trust, how she had anxiety, how little things could feel like big attacks to her. Maybe just be a little more careful with your tone, he offered. She really is trying. She means well. He smiled. And for a moment, Nora didn't recognize him, not because he looked different, but because the words coming out of his mouth weren't really his. They were Lena's. On the way home, Nora couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing him sentence by sentence. Not in a dramatic explosion, but like an ice cube melting in her hand. Slow. Inevitable. Quiet. That night, she pulled out an old photo album. David at age 7, holding a frog he swore was magical. David at 18, hugging her before moving to university. She touched the corner of one picture, half smiling, half aching. She means well. She whispered the words to herself, as if saying them over and over might make them true. But her chest tightened anyway. It wasn't just that Lena was inserting herself. It was that David was beginning to rewrite the past, to doubt his mother's love, to mistrust her warmth, to replace history with Lena's version. And the scariest part? Nora was starting to wonder if maybe, just maybe, it was her fault. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't cruel. It was silence. And silence can destroy more than words ever will. Nora knew something was wrong the moment she opened the newspaper. It was a photo, a blurry, happy photo, tucked into the corner of the local lifestyle section. Surprise birthday bash for local businessman David Arneson. Her son, grinning, holding a wineglass in one hand and Lena's waist in the other. Balloons behind him, dozens of faces, friends, co-workers, and a cake she had never heard about, in a room she had never been invited to. Her fingers gripped the paper too tightly, not out of anger, out of something else, disbelief, disorientation, disappointment so sharp it almost felt like betrayal. She looked again. The caption, hosted by his lovely wife, Lena, who organized the event with the help of close family. Close family. What was she then? Nora stared at the photo for a long time. She could see the edge of David's old university friend in the back. Even Lena's cousin from Canada, the one who only visited once every few years, was there. But not her. Not the woman who raised him, who stayed up nights when he had asthma attacks, who saved every single birthday card he ever gave her, who, last week, had dropped off his favorite soup at his doorstep when he had the flu. No call. No thank you. Not even a returned bowl. She didn't call him that day. She didn't ask why. She didn't want to hear the answer. But the universe wasn't done twisting the knife. Later that week, Nora was walking home from the store when she ran into Ms. Ellings, her neighbor across the street. Sweet woman. Kind. Talked a little too much, but never meant harm. "Oh, Nora," she beamed. "David's party looked amazing. Lena really outdid herself. You must be so proud." Nora blinked. She started. But no words came. "That speech David gave," Ms. Ellings continued, "brought tears to everyone's eyes, especially the bit about how Lena was his rock, how she was the reason he survived the hardest years of his life." Nora smiled, or something like it, something that passed for a smile in public. She nodded, thanked Ms. Ellings, and walked the rest of the way home with trembling hands and milk that had started to sweat in the plastic bag. She sat at the kitchen table for a long time that afternoon, the grocery bag still on the counter, the clock ticking like a metronome of what she had become, unspoken, unneeded, uninvited. She pulled out her phone once, scrolled through old messages from David. Last one. "Thanks for the soup. Hope you're staying warm. 3 weeks ago. No heart emoji. No follow-up." She stared at the phone. Typed. "I saw the article. Happy birthday, sweetheart." Then deleted it. Typed again. "Looks like it was a beautiful party. I missed seeing you." Deleted it again. She finally settled on, "Hope you had a nice birthday." Pressed send, turned off the screen, and left the room. But even as she tried to move on, a single, quiet realization echoed in her chest. I'm being erased. Not with rage, not with cruelty, but with decisions made behind her back, conversations she wasn't part of, celebrations she wasn't invited to. And for the first time, she felt afraid. afraid that Lena wasn't just drifting her away, she was replacing her. And worse, David was letting her. Lena didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The damage was already done. It started with a whisper, a sentence, passed like gossip, but sharper. "She's a bit intense, isn't she?" Nora overheard it in the hallway, at a baby shower. Someone Lena invited her to. At first, she thought it was about someone else. Then she saw the look, quick, sideways, a flicker of polite pity. She laughed it off, shrugged, stayed quiet. But something stayed with her, like the sentence had latched onto her skin. That week, she noticed things. Little things. Too little to be accidents. David called. Brief. Distracted. "Lena said you made her uncomfortable last time. About the way you asked about kids." Nora's mouth fell open. "I just asked if you two were thinking about it," she said. "That's the problem," he replied. "It's always you asking things. She feels judged." She apologized, even though she didn't know why, even though her voice cracked. David didn't notice. Later that month, a friend from church pulled her aside. "Nora, I don't want to get in the middle, but Lena, she said you've been really hard on her, that you've been controlling." Nora froze. Her hands clenched. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just nodded. Then went home and sat in the dark for hours. She started second-guessing herself. Was she too direct? Too involved? Too much? She replayed conversations in her head, word by word, tone by tone. She even pulled out old voicemails, listened to David's voice from a year ago, before Lena, before the distance. "You're my rock, Mom. Don't ever let anyone tell you different." She wept, quietly, not from sadness, from confusion. Because now, she was the villain, the manipulator, the drama. Then came the worst part, the group chat. Her family had a group chat. Cousins, aunties, David. Nora had always been in it. Always sent the birthday gifts, the good morning sunshine texts, the updates. Then one morning, she noticed silence. No pings, no buzz, no happy birthday, Uncle Jack. She checked. Gone. She wasn't in the group anymore. She waited. David didn't say anything. No explanation. No slip. Just distance. And Lena's voice in his ear. She realized something brutal, something final. Lena didn't want to argue with her. She wanted people to believe she was dangerous, quietly, permanently, and it was working. She wasn't pushed out. She was erased, gently, completely. It started with silence, not just a quiet day, but a full week. No texts, no missed calls, nothing. She sent a message. "Hi, sweetheart, just checking in?" No reply. She waited. 1 day, 2, 5. Still nothing. She tried again. "I'm thinking of you. Hope all is well." Blue check marks. No response. It was like speaking into a wall, a soft, padded wall where every word disappeared. Then came the photos. She didn't mean to see them. But social media doesn't ask permission. There they were. David and Lena, smiling, on vacation, with Lena's parents, holding cocktails, laughing. And in the caption, "Family time." No mention of her. No tag. No thought. It stung. More than it should. More than she admitted. She clicked on David's profile. Blocked. Not a glitch. Not an error. Not a mistake. Blocked. She called, straight to voicemail. She called again. Same thing. She sent an email. Polite, careful, worried. "David, if I've done something wrong, please tell me." No reply. She waited another week. Still nothing. Then, one day, she bumped into Lena's mother at the supermarket. They used to smile, used to chat. Not friends, but warm. This time, just a nod, a stiff one, and a quick turn of the cart. Something had changed. Something cold. Something final. Later at home, Nora sat by the window, watched the rain run down the glass, each drop trailing like a thought she couldn't hold on to. Her phone sat on the table, still silent. She looked through old photos again. David as a child, David holding her hand, David building pillow forts in the living room. She touched his face on the paper, whispered his name. And then she whispered something else, something she never thought she'd say. Maybe he's really gone. Because this wasn't just distance, this wasn't just time, this was a goodbye. But without the decency of saying it. She stood up, put the photos away, turned off her phone, and sat back down, still and smaller than ever. There were no more fights, no more messages, just absence, and that hurt more than anger ever could. The calendar pages flipped, 1 month, then another and another. No calls, no birthdays, no visits. The house was quiet, too quiet. She didn't notice it at first, not really. It crept in slowly, like fog in an empty field, like air leaving a balloon. The kettle whistled every morning, still made 2 cups of tea, still set 2 places at the table, still waited, still hoped. But David didn't come, didn't call, didn't even exist anymore, except on old voicemail recordings. "Hey, Mum, I'm running late. Don't worry, I'll be there. Love you." She played them sometimes, at night, alone, in the dark, pretending. People asked questions, at church, at the market, in line at the pharmacy. "How's your son?" She smiled, said things like, "Oh, he's busy with work." Then changed the subject. She started writing him letters, on paper, long ones, short ones. She never mailed them, just kept them in a drawer, in the kitchen, with the sugar spoons. Sometimes she walked past their house, carefully, slowly, not to spy, just to feel close. The curtains were always closed. One day, she saw them, coming out of the car. Lena, David, carrying shopping bags, laughing. She stood across the street, behind a tree, heart pounding, hands shaking. She almost waved, almost called his name, but something inside her stopped, something heavy, something afraid. He looked happy, not missing, not grieving, just gone. She walked away before they saw her. Tears came halfway down the block. She wiped them quickly. No one must see. No one must ask. At night, she stayed up later. Lights off, TV on, not watching, just noise to fill the void. One day, a mutual friend called, just casual. "Did you hear? They're buying a new house, bigger, closer to Lena's parents." Nora smiled into the phone. "Oh, that's wonderful." Then hung up and didn't move for an hour. The silence wasn't just the absence of sound. It was the presence of something colder, something sharp, a kind of exile that didn't need borders. She wasn't just being ignored. She was being rewritten, replaced, erased. And the worst part, no one even noticed, not even him. She built her lie so carefully. But even perfect masks crack. It happened at the bakery, a small place. Nora went there every Saturday, same coffee, same bun, same corner seat by the window. She hadn't seen Lena's cousin in months. Mila, nice girl, always friendly, used too much perfume, talked too much, but harmless. Mila spotted her first, smiled, waved, walked straight over. "Nora! Wow, haven't seen you since David's wedding." A pause. "Well, actually, since the baby shower." "Gosh, how are you?" Nora nodded, smiled politely, took a sip of coffee. "I'm well." She didn't ask about David. She never did anymore, not out loud. But Mila kept talking. She always did. "Lena says you've been keeping to yourself, that you needed time away from all the stress." Pause. And that you wanted space? Nora blinked. Space? She had never asked for space. She had begged for closeness. She had cried for a call. She had waited at her door with warm soup. Mila kept going. She also said you asked not to be part of the group anymore, that the drama was affecting your health. Nora's stomach tightened. That was a lie. A full, naked, shameless lie. She never said that. Never wanted that. Never even hinted. She looked up. She told you that? Nora asked quietly. Mila froze, just for a second, then nodded, too quickly. Oh, yeah. She just wanted to give you space. Said it was what you needed. Nora smiled, but her heart was no longer still. There it was, the crack. Tiny, but real. Back home, she sat down. Not angry, not sad, something different, alert, awake, aware. She opened her drawer, the one with the letters, took one out, read it again. Felt the words hit differently now. I miss you, David. I don't know what happened. She now did. It wasn't her. It was never her. It was Lena. Nora looked around the quiet house. Nothing had changed, but everything felt different, because for the first time in months, she didn't feel lost. She felt lied to, and lies can be undone. All it took was one lie too many. Nora didn't sleep that night, not even a little. She lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It fueled her. She told people I walked away. She whispered it out loud, just to hear it. She lied. About me. The words felt strange in her mouth, not because they were new, but because finally they were true. All the missing messages, the parties, the skipped invites, the cold glances. They weren't accidents. They were part of a plan. Lena had built a wall, brick by brick, story by story. And David? He didn't just believe her. He helped her lay the bricks. By morning, Nora had already changed. No more wool blanket, no more waiting by the phone. She got dressed, tied her hair back, made a list. Receipts, messages, screenshots. She pulled up old texts, emails, invites, voicemails. She printed everything, every gift she gave, every lunch she offered, every unanswered call. Proof, not for David. Not yet. But for herself. For months, she had questioned her own mind, her memory, her worth. Now she had the evidence. She wasn't bitter. She was right. By noon, she had a folder, labeled Truth. She laughed at the name, but it stayed. Then she called her lawyer. Yes, her lawyer. A quiet man, handled her will, her finances. She hadn't spoken to him in over a year. It's time I make some changes, she said. He didn't ask why, only listened. Remove David and Lena from the inheritance, she said clearly. Temporarily. For now. A pause. Add a clause. If they ever come for the money, I want that conversation recorded. He hesitated. Are you sure? She didn't blink. Very. She also made one more call. To an old friend. A woman who knew people, good at finding things, and digging gently. I need everything public Lena's said about me, she asked. Anything on socials, anything others repeated, even what she whispers when she thinks no one is listening. Her friend understood. Give me a week, she said. That evening, Nora sat by the window again. Same spot, same view, but not the same woman. She was no longer trying to hold on. She was preparing, and miles away. Lena felt it. Not a phone call, not a letter, but a shift. David came home quiet, confused. Mum called her lawyer today, he said. Someone at the office heard. They said she's changing everything. Lena froze. She smiled anyway. I'm sure it's nothing. She's probably just updating things. You know how dramatic she gets. David didn't smile back. Not right away, because part of him felt something crack. Not in his mother. In Lena. Just for a moment. The storm had started, but not outside. Inside. And it was only getting stronger. She didn't come to beg. She came to remind him who she was. Nora didn't knock. She stood in front of their door, folder in hand, heart steady. Not angry, not shaking, just ready. Lena opened. The smile was tight, narrow, measured. Nora? What a surprise. Nora didn't smile back. Is David home? Lena hesitated, then stepped aside. Sure, come in. She stepped through the doorway, felt the air shift, felt the house look different. Same walls, but something colder now. David sat on the couch, remote in hand. Blank expression. He looked up slowly. Mum? She didn't sit, didn't ask how he was. She simply opened the folder. I'm going to speak, and you're going to listen. He nodded, confused, but quiet. She pulled out the first page, a list of texts, dates, times. These are the messages I sent, the ones you never replied to. Another page. These are the photos of your parties, vacations, every event I wasn't invited to. Another page. This is the baby shower I heard about from Mila, the one Lena said I didn't want to attend. I never said that. She kept going, calm, precise. Her voice never wavered, her hands never shook, page after page, proof after proof. Then came the final page, her lawyer's note, the clause, the removal. David stared at it. You removed us from your will. Nora nodded. Yes, because I don't reward cruelty, and I don't enable lies. Lena stepped forward. This is insane, she said quickly. You're twisting everything. You've always had a problem with me. Nora turned to her, eyes sharp, voice soft. Number, I had a problem with how you isolated my son, and how you lied about me. But not anymore. Now I just see you clearly. She turned back to David. I raised you better than this. He looked down, said nothing. Nora stepped back, closed the folder, held it tight to her chest. You don't have to love me, but you don't get to erase me. She turned to leave. At the door, she paused. You believed her so easily, without ever asking me. A beat. That's what hurt the most. Then she opened the door and walked out. Behind her, Lena stood frozen. David sat still, staring at the floor, at the pages scattered on the table, pages of truth, of memory, of a mother who never stopped trying. The mirror cracked, and now he could finally see. It took months to break her. It took one conversation to break Lena. David didn't move, not for minutes, not even after the door clicked shut, not after Nora walked out. He just sat there, staring at the folder, at the truth, at himself. Lena spoke first. She's manipulating you. David didn't answer. That whole performance? That was for sympathy. She's twisting it all. Still nothing. She doesn't want you to be happy. She never has. It's always been about her. Her voice rose. But David stayed still. Because deep down, he knew something had shifted. Not in Nora. In him. He remembered little things. Moments he had pushed aside. Lena reading his texts, deleting them. Lena asking, Do you really need to call her again today? Lena saying, She's guilt-tripping you. Don't fall for it. Back then, he thought she was protecting him. Now, he wasn't so sure. He looked up. Did you tell people she didn't want to come to the shower? Lena blinked. Just for a second. I said she wasn't feeling well. Same thing. No, he said quietly. It's not. She crossed her arms. Why are you suddenly believing everything she says? You know how dramatic she can be. He stood up. You told Myla she asked for distance. Because she was toxic, David. She made me feel unsafe. Unsafe how? She hesitated. She judged me. She gave me these looks. He stepped closer. That's not unsafe. That's disapproval. And now I'm starting to wonder if she was right. Lena's eyes narrowed. You're really going to throw away everything we've built because of one visit? No, he said. I'm questioning what we built it on. The room went quiet, colder, heavier. That night, he didn't sleep either. He lay awake, remembering his childhood, his mother's laugh, her hand on his shoulder before his exams, the nights she waited up when he was out late, the soup when he was sick, the way she looked at him like he was her whole world. When was the last time he looked at her the same? In the kitchen, Lena poured wine, watched him from the hallway, eyes narrowed, mouth tight. Her grip was loosening, and she knew it. David pulled out his phone, searched her name. Nora. No texts, no missed calls. Blocked. He went into settings, removed the block, stared at the empty thread. He didn't write. Not yet. But he left it open, visible, like a door he might still walk through. Meanwhile, Nora sat in bed, book in her lap, unread. She felt it. Not joy, not peace, but a crack, a real one, a shift. Lena's control was breaking, piece by piece. And this time, she couldn't smile her way out of it. They thought they were writing her ending, but Nora picked up the pen and rewrote the final chapter. 3 weeks passed. No word from David, no call, no knock, no apology. And then, a letter, not a text, not an email. A real, handwritten letter, folded, taped shut. No return address, just her name. She stared at it. Didn't open it right away. She boiled water, made tea, fed the cat. Then finally sat, at the window, in the light, and opened it. David's handwriting, still the same. Shaky, but his. Mom. 2 pages. Not long, but honest. He said he was sorry for not asking questions, for assuming, for letting someone else tell him who his mother was. He said he remembered everything. The birthday pancakes, the hospital nights, the way she never asked for anything, but always gave everything. I let her speak louder than your silence, he wrote, and I see it now. At the end, he said he missed her, and asked, would you let me come over? Just to talk? Nora sat for a long time. She didn't cry. She smiled. Not a big smile. A small, tired one. But real. Later that week, David came. Alone. No Lena. No excuses. Just him. He brought her flowers. She didn't take them right away. But she let him in. They sat. They talked. Not about everything. Not yet. But enough. He asked about the garden. She told him about the tomatoes. He looked around the house like it was a place he hadn't seen in years. Maybe he hadn't. Before he left, he said something else. I'm not sure where things stand between me and Lena. She didn't answer, just touched his hand. That's your choice, she said. But so is the man you choose to be. He nodded, and for the first time in months, he hugged her. Not out of guilt, not out of habit, out of something deeper, something real. That night, Nora sat down again, not with a folder, not with evidence, with peace. Because she hadn't fought to win. She hadn't exposed Lena to destroy her. She'd only done what mothers always do, protect. And this time, she protected herself. And Lena? Well, let's just say, when you spend your life spinning lies, it only takes one gust of truth to knock it all down. They thought they had the final word. But Nora? She wrote the last line. If you loved this story of strength, silence, and one woman who stood up for herself after being erased, Watch our previous video. My son said, "This isn't your home anymore, Mum." So I let him walk away. Days later, he lost everything. Click it right here on screen.